Ladies and gentlemen, I am BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 87 of our Dota On Demand podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? 87. We're finally coming back after almost 4 hours, I believe it was, of analysis. You guys are welcome. I thought I said we could take the week off, but apparently BDLM is a slave driver and insists I come back to do yet another episode a week later. I don't know what's wrong with him, but here we are.
Yeah, and in other news, we are both currently dying.
Yes.
I have been going to the gym on occasion of late. Decided to go out for a nice little run this afternoon, and apparently my body is attacking me for it. Jay, I think you lifted a...
More than just a banana. No, I actually went to a real gym and lifted real free weights. I know. And, yeah, I just told you my foot is hurting. I did chest and triceps, and my foot is hurting right now.
This is no joke, and I really wish I was lying. My shin hurts from running. My side was... I thought I had a lung collapsing. I was running outside, and as it turns out, I'm allergic to nature. So I felt like I was choking the whole second half of my run, and now my body is ceasing to function. But we made it, and that's the important part. And what is also, if for no other reason to come back, we had to thank everybody, because you can correct me on whatever the actual exact stat is, but we got more views, more downloads on the last episode in 1 week than any other episode of the show.
Yes.
And that's amazing, and we love you guys for it. We're going to be your creepy stalkers sitting in your trees, looking through your windows at night, because we appreciate it so much.
Yeah, that was a great statement. But, yeah, no, and we didn't even advertise it. That's the funny part. I guess people are also just hungry for patch analysis, and they got where they could find it, but I hope you guys enjoyed it and stuck around through. You made through the marathon that was our episode, because I know that obviously are normally like an hour, so to make it through 3 1/4 long is quite a triumph. But I hope you guys learned something from all that talk. And it wasn't just fluff; it was really in depth about pretty much every single hero. So unfortunately, a little too much for BDL to make individual notes about, but. We do go more or less alphabetical order for heroes, so if you want to skip ahead to certain ones, you could probably end up doing that.
I'd still like to do it. It's just I come across 12-hour chunks of my life that I'm doing nothing so seldom that it's hard. It's hard to go through all of it. And I think I fell asleep during the episode at least twice.
Yeah.
So to try to go back through it again and put in the show notes, it's gonna be an endeavor. But it was a lot of fun, and I think we have this week is as much fun, if not more fun, than last week. We're going to be talking about our own personal experiences playing in the JDL tournament, the Open League, that our buddy Gino Beam actually put a team together for, and I've gotten to sub in. We're going to be talking about the International 4 invites and the qualifying teams. Going to be looking into those, and then of course, now that we've talked about the patch for 4 hours, we have an opportunity to talk about the patch. So we're going to do a little bit of that. So it's going to be really good. So you are the carry of said JDL League team.
The one.
You're the one.
The chosen one. Yes.
So what have your thoughts been? I mean, how have you liked the experience in general, if not as playing the carry role? Because I know you normally
it's different on a lot of levels, because this is, as you're saying, our first real experience in some kind of competitive format, like a tournament kind of playoff type thing. And it's been so far so good. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play this past week. I know you got to play with the team, so you helped lead them to victory there, but. Playing the one also is kind of a transition, because normally when we played friends, I'd either play middle or, basically whatever the heck the team needed, and didn't really stick to one thing. But, for a team, you kind of want to try to play one role as much as you can so you get more experience and practice with it. So I decided to be the one role, since our friend Bonk is, I'd say better, is probably an undervalued word there. He's much better at microing and playing heroes like Invoker than me. So I'm like, you know what? you take the middle, I'll handle the carry, and I'm good at mechanics. I can do last hitting, so it's been fun so far. I'm actually trying to work on right now my hero pool. It's not so diverse. Tiny IO happened. I think it's, what was it? I told you my third Tiny game ever played. So that happened.
We also learned that we do not ever practice the Shadow Demon Mirana combination, apparently, in PUBG, and that could use some polish. A little bit.
Debatable, you know. I mean, do you really need to land the arrow after the disruption?
Probably not.
You know.
For show.
Exactly, but it's been actually kind of fun, and we're right now 4-0 the Dream. Apparently, we're going this week against the other top 4-0 team in our division, which is something like the Terrible Kittens or something. I don't even know what their name is. It's something just as awesome. We are called Be More Zen, by the way, so when you see that on Reddit coming up here as one of the next TI5 qualifier invites, Be More Zen, you'll know where it's actually coming from. And actually, apparently one of our viewers is in the process of trying to design a little logo for us to have for the team, so that's kind of snazzy. Kind of liking that. So we'll see where it goes.
Very cool. Yeah, I have to say, just about the experience in general. I just stepped in when you guys were missing somebody, because when Juno Beam asked me to play, I was like, I don't have the time to. I would want to take it so seriously that I'd want to practice certain nights a week. I'd want us to have strategies going in, or to have I guess to really have a firm understanding of what style of game that we're most successful in. And it was 2 weeks before it started. I'm like, that's not enough time to figure it out. And no, I'm gonna step out. You can find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually been really nice, because I don't mean this to sound bad, but it feels like a lot of the teams we've been playing against, it's almost like the same situation where it's just a bunch of guys that get together and they want to play Dota, and you run some cheesy strats, or they run whatever heroes they're comfortable with. I'm actually really impressed with how it has been just a really fun, casual experience for the most part. We'd have one game where it was a little, but it's actually been neat, and I think a lot less.
It's not
stressful.
as much pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, and actually, to add to that, after apparently both series were kind of stomps in our favor. We kind of just really outplayed them and outclassed them, despite no practicing. And I guess that's just the difference from 4,000 to 2,800 players. But after we did the first series, nice guys we are, me, Gino Beam, and Bonk, we stuck around, and the other captain, a couple of the players, asked us to join them in Skype, and we went through the game and just kind of went over the draft and said, hey, this is where you guys made it very obvious what your strategy was and why we outpicked you severely. And then we kind of went through the three players probably all 15 minutes, because we just really beat them quickly. But, so we sat with them, and that just adds to the not as much high pressure, high stakes, anger. These guys just wanted to improve themselves too, so they were looking for some pointers. And, so it was really cool to kind of give back after that win. There was no bad feelings left behind.
Yeah, and I think that's again where when I was thinking about playing, is I want to take this super serious, and almost wanted to be stressed out about it, but it really was just it was just good fun, and I totally suggest anybody out there interested in playing. Even the fifth for the team was just picked up off Reddit. He was a really good player. He was playing Centaur, killed it in some of the games that I was subbing in for, and so. If you're somebody that wants to get into, that sort of thing, a community league, we had talked about this before in the show. You want to take your game to the next level. I think it's a great opportunity, and the success of pulling in somebody that we didn't even know from before, I feel like is kind of reassured my faith in humanity. Slightly.
Just slightly. Now, of course, there will be those teams, and maybe the Absolute Kittens or whatever their team name is are just a bunch of dicks. But, we'll see what happens when we cross that bridge. As far as strategies, we haven't played a lot of games in that thing, but I have to say, so far, we've seen the other team pick Tree Lich multiple times. Very, very defensive. And I know personally we've run very aggressive lineups, such as Centaur offlane, like you said. Kind of seems like we've had our pickings almost every time, like Mirana, Shadow Demon, Dazzle. We got a lot of the popular meta heroes. And then we have Meepo, because that's Bonk's favorite hero. So that's our like pocket strategy for game 2. It's like, all right, here comes the Meepo. We got this one. But is there anything you noticed or like you want to point out that was kind of either interesting or you thought wasn't really that successful?
We went up against a global strat, which hurt. But you just group up, you take it like a man, you pop your mech, go back to killing it. So yeah, now that pipe is like decent, go for it. All that 4 health regen per second.
Yeah, I guess the global strategy is really strong against, well, on a global perspective. But as you say, if you just group up and push, what are they going to do? The global part is defeated because unless they're so good at rat doding you that you have to like split up your team somehow. Yeah, that would be the only thing that could possibly stand in the way.
They did have a Prophet, they did have a Spectre, so there was certainly a potential, but yeah, we just played pretty solid and were able to take it to victory. So, you know, I think that's something where I was almost expecting a more negative experience or not enjoying it as much, and it's been super, super fun. So, totally suggest you guys out there do it. Maybe slightly more, I mean, I don't want to say more serious or more competitive, but, you know, International 4.
Close, yeah.
It's coming. And they've released all of the invites and also the setup for the qualifiers. I'm pretty super excited. I don't know if you have...
Pretty super excited.
Pretty super. Pretty the most excited. I don't know, do you have the invites up in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Run through?
Yes. Yeah, so quickly, the ones that are invited, like we said before, only 11 teams actually invited this year. There's Alliance, Evil Geniuses, Fnatic. By the way, all the predictions we said, all 3 of them are in there. Go figure. Sorry, I just had to brush the shirt off my shoulder. What am I saying? Probably press the dirt. Press the dirt. I'm done talking. We also got Titan, Newbie, Vici Gaming, Navi, Team DK, IG, Cloud9, and Team Empire.
Yeah. I mean, do any of these... I mean, how do you feel about these? I mean, you said you called them. I feel like most of these I was just, like, sort of expecting to see. Any surprises to you?
Vici Gaming, probably not a surprise. It's just that I don't know much about this roster that they're running. Obviously, I've heard of the team name a lot. I've seen them a lot of Southeast Asian tournaments, but I wasn't really sure of their story. But you know, I've kind of like researched a little bit into their stories, and they've been winning a lot of big games in the past few months. So it's not, I guess, so shocking, especially if you follow that scene. You're probably like, oh yeah, of course, Vici Gaming, they're there. The 3 champions, all there, kind of makes sense to a level. I mean, you shouldn't assume they're automatically going to come back. Well, the latest one you'll assume comes back, but the other 2 could have fallen off. I mean, IG actually only recently got a similar roster to the one that went to the 2012 one. So, yeah, I guess they might have been the only one that was like, oh, IG, I'm not 100% sure about them, but yeah, they're still here.
Yeah, I actually thought it was really interesting to see Newbie on this list, to be honest, because I remember just watching some of their games previously, and it was sort of like a mixed bag. Like, they had some success, they didn't have some success in another one of their games. And so I was curious because I'm looking at them and I'm looking at EG, and I'm like, wow, these are both really new teams. You know, both come together with their full roster in late February, not November, not even close to November, February. And so I was like, I kind of just want to take a look at these teams and see how they've been doing, because I pay a lot more attention to the Western scene in general, and then go Team Merca, and Arteeza saves. So I kind of had to follow a little bit of EG, and was like, yeah, I can totally see them being in there. You know, they have just been sort of killing it lately, doing a little bit of trend setting. But then you have Newbie, who have really not had that many opportunities to sort of showcase their dream team lineup in the professional scene. And so I just want to run through some things, some stats looking at both these teams. You know, like I said, EG and Newbie, they come together in the early 20s of February 2014. EG have 123 games played as 5, whereas Newbie only have 38 recorded for their current roster. And the number of tournaments, you have 7 for EG, 4 for newbie, and you have like a couple of like notable performances for newbie. They wound up getting like 3rd in the Star Ladder prelims, but when you look at through what EG has been able to do, they have 1st, 2nd, 3rd places in a lot of the competitions that they've been a part in, and so it sort of just struck me as strange to see them get invited. But of course, I guess by that same token, you look at some of the teams in the Chinese qualifier, you go, well, I don't know if there's anybody that would prefer to be there, especially when you consider that a lot of the members of newbie have been at prior internationals. And
I was going to say, I think it's more about the roster than the team name for them. The Hao, Mu, Zhao 8, Banana, and Sensheng. As you say, those are pretty much, even if you don't even follow Southeast Asian scene, you know at least 3 or 4 of those names just because they've been around forever. So yeah, it's kind of like, old gentleman's club, that's why they're getting invited. Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, they're not as well proven or as well founded as some of these other teams for sure, but that doesn't mean that they're not up to the same level. And I think they definitely have shown their stuff, especially in the past few months. Maybe not as many 1st or 2nd place wins or anything, but I think they're definitely going to be a reckoning force, and I'm very excited. Actually, one of the ones I'm really rooting on to maybe get a lot more practice in is Fnatic. I mean, I've seen some good plays as of late, but across the board, I have to say I haven't been as impressed with them as I've been with some of these other teams' performances. So I'm hoping that they can really get some interesting, good strategies worked for it. I know they have the talent and the skill for it, but they need to get the focus. So I hope that kind of comes through for them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I've just been paying attention to the wrong games, but I feel like they're not as prominent as they were, let's say, a month or so ago. When they were just like really doing well. So maybe I'm concerned for how they're going to do out of the invited teams, but
yeah,
it's definitely going to be a slugfest. I'm really curious to see how they're able to do. I'm curious to see how newbie are able to do. And of course, you gotta support NA. You gotta.
Well, that was my question for you actually. We've seen 3 different EG rosters come through here, all of which have been less than great results. You might have to agree with. Do you think this is the one that has potential to go the distance?
My main concern with EG is that Fear is still missing, and I'm sure they're just resting him. I don't think that Fear is going to lose all of his skill and synergy with the team, but it is kind of unfortunate that he's still spending time in recovery. I'm sure they're going to run a boot camp before the international, and I'm sure he's going to get right back in it, and they're going to do fine. But that's I think this is certainly the most promising group to
of EG's
sort of
past
under the EG banner. And you look at again some of what they've been able to do lately, and you go, yeah, I can totally see them beating out some of these teams. Some of these teams, it's going to be close, and maybe they just have not a lucky series, but they have a good series, and they're able to put themselves up pretty high. But I can definitely see them coming in here and walking away with a position to be proud of, and that's definitely always exciting, especially when you consider that as far as North America is concerned, they're really the only team. Cloud9, sure, they're kind of doing all right. So I don't know. I feel like EG is where my USA hopes lie.
Cloud9, I was talking about focus with Fnatic. They are the definition of a team that needs to focus to win games. I mean, I feel like there's just so much adrenaline, so much passion that goes through their veins. These guys run high on emotions, and I think it's almost like a roller coaster where if they're in a great run, they're going to just strike out with confidence and dominate. But I also feel like on the same token, if they could get their morale shattered instantly. This is almost the same word. We're close. Maybe completely different things though. But I just hope they can really keep it focused. I do believe they're a very powerful team. Like I said, a lot of talent is there for sure on all these players. You've heard of all of their names as well. A lot of them have been in previous internationals as well. But yeah, on that same token, not 100% sure. But I agree with you. I think EG does have a nice fighting chance as well. So I just am really excited. Na'Vi, are they going to get second place again? Do we have any predictions on that?
I have no predictions for Navi ever.
No one should. That's the thing. They haven't really been practicing at all.
Too, really. I mean, they've not been in the best of forms. I mean, I feel like you sort of get it. I don't know. EG, great players come together. They come out, swinging. It's sort of, I guess, you would expect that out of a young team. They're just sort of just.
They got a lot more to prove.
Well, that, and you figure they're not tired of playing together. I mean, you figure these other teams have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
They've won the international. They're maybe a little bit more comfortable because they're like, this is kind of a smaller tournament. We can take it easy on this one, or they might need some time away from one another to relax every once in a while. Totally legit. So I feel like both of those teams, you really just have to go and look and see how they show up to the international, because even in some of the tournaments, before, I'm wondering, are they even going to be in top form in the month before,
right?
Or if they're going to wait to do a boot camp right before the international.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm certainly excited. I mean, this might be. You look at all these teams. I think in years past, you might go and look at some of the internationals and go like, this team's out, this team's out. I feel like most of these really have a serious. It's hard to say they all have a serious shot, but this I think is a really close running as far as all of the invited teams, which I'm certainly excited about.
Yeah, I could foresee. I think I could foresee any of them getting all the way. There's obviously some I way favor more than others, but we'll get into predictions more when we probably in future episodes as we approach it. Do you want to go into the qualifiers now?
Absolutely. I think the qualifiers. I mean, there's already been a little bit of qualifier drama.
That's true.
Unfortunately, Revenge won't be showing up to the NA one, which I'm actually really excited or really
Not
sad about.
NA,
I'm excited.
It's just America's. It actually, Revenge is the reason why it's not just NA. So,
yeah, the Americas. And not only are they not going to compete, but Smash actually left the team, which is sad because I really don't pay that close attention to some of the, let's say, Tier 2 American teams. But I actually really liked that guy. He was that was one of the names that sort of stood out for me from some of these lesser-known teams from the Americas. I feel like that the North American qualifier is kind of a mixed bag. I mean, I would assume that either Liquid or Sneaky Nick's Assassins are going to come out and do pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But, some of these teams, honestly, I haven't even heard much out of. And watching some of, for instance, eHug's games recently, playing in the Summit, they just have some miscues, or you're not really sure why they're making some of the decisions they're making.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about this one in particular, or another qualifier that you're interested in?
I think I told you when we were first trying to predict, because we were saying that there's one winner from each of the 4 regions, and then there's the play-in series where the runner-up in each one also play for an extra spot, that 5th extra spot. And I was like, oh yeah, China's going to put 2 in there, no problem. I was like, whatever, that always happens. China's so strong. But this year, not necessarily. I am kind of actually having mixed feelings on it. And I think it's because of just the other talent we've seen around the world. Americas, I truly believe there may be just a couple of them that really have a lot of promise, and I think the rest are just not there yet. I think they haven't been around yet and done enough to really get to the top. So I agree. I think Liquid. I think Sneaky Nick's Assassins. Maybe North American Rejects. I'm just rooting for them because I beat Fogged and Snake King, and I want them to get a little revenge on their pride from when I just demolished them. But
so that when they win the international, you can say yeah, I beat them.
Yeah, I beat the winners of the. That actually is a great reason why. So yeah, I'm going to root for them for purely that reason alone. Europe is going to be fascinating. I think. I think I'm maybe more excited for Europe than the other ones. China could be. Well, obviously China's going to have a lot of competition in it, but honestly, I know pretty much all of these teams pretty well, and I think there's a ton of talent coming out. Roxkiss next to KZ. Even Team Dog has been stepping up their game lately, as well as some of these other ones, MYM and Ware Gaming. So I don't know. I think they actually may have a shot to put an extra team in there as well.
Yeah, especially for Europe, I really sincerely, I think of all the qualifiers, the one team that I really want to come out is Roxkiss. I love Goblock. I love his drafts. I love that he made Tree a thing pretty much by himself.
Yep.
That he just, through persistence, Tree was a thing. And, I mean, that being said, Power Rangers are like the dream killers. I remember an interview, or maybe it's a little snippet, from someone in Navi talking about the International 2, where they go, yeah, our dream isn't to win the International, it's just to crush everybody else's dream of winning because we've already done it. That's how I feel like Power Rangers actually function, even though Navi said it. They're just like, oh, you're a Tier 1 team, you're trying to get to the next level, you're done. What's up? Have a seat. Gonna come in here and just take a couple games off you. Don't mind us. And then lose in the future. But I'm sort of rooting for them, but I definitely want Roxkiss to come out. I definitely want to see them go.
You know what team I'm really excited for? Sorry to completely cut you off completely, because I thought you were almost done. Dreamtime. Maybe it's because I just watched a lot of them recently, like a lot. It's actually pretty much all by coincidence that, or maybe not, they're just doing really well and they're in a lot of these tournaments doing really well. But they've taken a lot of series off teams like DK, like IG, like a ton of these Southeast Asian teams, newbie, they're taking series off of them in these other tournaments. And I'm like, wait a second, I didn't even really hear of this team until just now. And going into it, yeah, they've been really strong. Their middle player, Air, is just phenomenal. I really am impressed with him. He likes to play Brewmaster too, which makes me like him that much more. But honestly, I think they're a team you've got to be looking out for. I think they have actually a really great chance at taking the China, or at least maybe the 5th spot.
Yeah, I think the Chinese qualifier is the scariest. I mean, that's the one where I think you have the most competition between the most teams, because honestly, I feel like right now DK is sort of like the team to beat.
Yep.
Not to jump on the bandwagon, but they just play some pretty phenomenal games. And a lot of the teams in this group have taken games off of them, have, forced them to split series or, taken series from them. So I am definitely excited to watch these. I think it's probably going to be the closest of the qualifiers all the way through. But yeah, DT, I actually really like. Watched some games from CNB and really enjoyed watching them play. Of course, you have like Tong Fu, who the name, I feel like, of the organization, you're just sort of like, it's weird to almost see them in the qualifier because they've been a part of the international.
Right.
Yeah, LGD as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be fierce. The one that I'm also really interested in, well, I guess the last one that I'm interested in is the Southeast Asian qualifier, because again, I feel like there are some of these underdog and also like old clubs that are sort of showing up here. Like Scythe, when we're watching the free to play documentary, like, oh yeah, I forgot that like all these clubs were a part of the International One and sort of just fell off. You have teams that you don't get to see all that often, or at least I don't get to see all that often, like Mineski and Myth Trust. And then I think the teams I'm most interested to see how they do, MVP Phoenix and Zephyr, because I want to see what the Korean Dota scene is able to bring and how high they're able to get in these qualifiers. I honestly don't know enough about the teams in Southeast Asia to like try to say like, oh, I think this team's going to do better than this one. But I'm curious to see where the chips fall as far as the Korean performance in that group, and if they're able, I think it'd be great if they were able to say, we competed against Southeast Asia, Korea was able to field a team and take it to the international. I feel like that'd be amazing to see, like, NA and Korea sort of now, I think a more major part of the international.
Obviously, it's predominantly China dominated. China and Europe. China, I would say China by far, and then Europe the runner-up. Korea, like you said, pretty much League of Legends is their primary game, so anything else, not so much. But Honestly, I think they have a lot of potential, and maybe if they can get more venues and more tournaments involving them, they will start bringing. Obviously, they have talented video game players there, so to just get them to switch games or maybe just in there would bring that much more competition to the scene. So yeah, I think MVP Phoenix has a lot behind them. Zephyr, it's just Purge and Blitz, man, and plus some others, but they're predominantly. I mean, let's be honest, they're the two that everyone really follows a lot in at least the community. They're
Corey?
big street.
Oh, that kid.
He's cool.
He doesn't work for them.
He's cool, but it's not like it's Blitz or Purge. So, if you say Purge, people know who he is. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, for star power, yeah. But as far as
for star power, I'm not saying for skill. I'm saying for star power. That's why. Not to call out Purge.
Not for skill.
No. Purge is a great player, very good support. But he's one of the first people I listened to when I got into the game. But I'm interested to see how Zephyr actually stacks up because we haven't seen a lot of them in tournament play. You know what I mean? They've kind of been, at least the main tournaments that we get to watch. So, to see them, they've obviously been playing against these other teams a lot of scrimming, a lot of practicing, and that may be actually paying off for them in the long run to see how it turns out in this qualifier.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see Korea up on the world stage, and I feel like I may have said this already, but I think that it's such an integral part of growing the sport to have representation from these areas of the world that have smaller viewership. So, it was like, I know I've said this before, once the American teams were knocked out of TI2, apparently Na'Vi was adopted by the United States and USA chants would start. Because we didn't have anybody else, so we were just like, you're ours now. Welcome home. Now we have EG, so we're like, Ukraine, you stay over there. We got some, North American boys to root for. So I think being able to just being able to say like biggest tournament of the year and Korea is a part of it, that's going to make more people in Korea pay attention to it, and that's going to help drive the growth in that area. So just makes me so happy, Jay.
Well, the thing is though, is that they are our lone. Well, not lone. I guess we got Cloud9. I can't.
They're
Cloud9
right?
is a mixed bag, though, of all sorts of countries in there. But I guess Cloud9 and EG are our staples for this tournament going forward here, and of course Navi, just because everyone's a freaking fanboy. Hey, I admit to it. I've fallen off the bandwagon finally, but only because there's actually other teams I'm interested in that I can get behind for a change, and I hope the rosters. Navi's obviously also one of the only rosters that's been so consistent throughout the year, so. It's hard to get behind a team only for them to disband or move apart the next year. So hopefully these other teams like EG, maybe even DK, maybe they'll stick around after this instead of the great shuffle that will happen right after this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be some shuffling, but, that's another, I think, interesting point, too. I feel like we have some teams returning that have been fairly stable, Alliance and Navi. Nice to see. Obviously, they placed well, so why would you, break it if it's not broken?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly excited. Thoroughly.
As we all should. So May 12th, 15th is the first one. That's the Americas, 12 p.m. EST. And then it goes to Southeast Asia the next few days, and then China, and then Europe. So it all wraps up May 27th. For the 4, and then I'm sure the play-in series will be probably right after that or something along those lines. So just rolling into June, we should have a clear picture of all the teams. And then I heard that the compendium, there will be another one going this year, which is probably a surprise to no one. So we'll probably be expecting some awesome features and more money in that big prize pool again this year.
Yeah, and that's the other cool thing too, I think, about the International Compendium being the first one. We've actually had some since then, so it's going to be interesting to see how that compendium evolves, or how the idea of the compendium evolves, and what Valve's Compendium 2.0 sort of winds up looking like. So I think there's a lot of great stuff to look for coming up. It's going to be, I think, one amazing whirlwind up into July, so it's going to be great.
Dion, May 12th is 6 days away.
I was just going to say that.
That's so exciting now that I put it that way. That is less than a week, meaning next episode they will have already commenced, and we will be able to start just talking about that first day.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
And you know, we will have easier times predicting winners after that day.
Perhaps. You know who I think is going to win the first day of this thing? You know, it's going to be it's going to be tough.
Saying if they knock a couple teams out, you know, that just increases the odds of us guessing correctly.
Do we remember how the qualifiers even work, though? Is there even a group stage, or do they just kind of play? I mean, 3 days is not a lot of time, so I guess maybe day 1 is group stage, and then day 2 and 3 is like best of ones. I don't know. This will be interesting. They haven't released the format anywhere that I could find. My memory is just awful. So if it's like it was in the past, I honestly can't remember the past. So
the first stage of the qualifiers takes place at the first 2 days, where each team will play each opponent in a best-of-1 round-robin format.
Oh, it's right there.
Quotes from Join Dota, since I'm reading it verbatim. On day 3, the second stage of the qualifiers kicks off. The top 4 will advance into the playoffs, where they will face each other in a double elimination format. So it's almost its own little international. It's a national.
It's a
mini nationals.
Interconnected.
Interconnected national.
Yeah, actually, I scrolled down to the bottom. By the way, this is all on the Dota 2 blog site, and right at the bottom it says qualifier format. So yeah. Too hard to scroll down, apparently. But that's cool. So there is going to be the best-of-3 format, which I like. It's not gimmicky. You know what I mean? You're not going to get, like, trolled by one strategy, necessarily. It'll give you that chance. And like we kind of said earlier, the play-in series is also awesome. To give these people who just were so close, give them that extra chance to really make it for their team. So I'm very stoked.
Yeah, I mean, I think really important about this is there's going to be for it being the biggest tournament of the year, there's going to be so little opportunity for people to say, oh, well, it happened this way because of X, Y, and Z. It's pretty much going to be like, guess what? These teams all played each other a bunch. This is who came out in front. They earned it. I mean, straight up. Especially if any of these teams in the qualifiers wind up getting themselves placed anywhere decently. I mean, huge kudos to them. Because they will have clearly worked through a mini international to get there in the first place. So it's going to be great.
I feel like a lot of qualifier teams, though, don't generally get very far, which is not necessarily just because they're qualifier winners, but it just seems to be a pattern. So wouldn't that be cool if one of these qualifier people was like the Cinderella story, did find their way up near the top? I think that would be pretty something else.
And I think that's a great point. I mean, you look at some of the... When we talk about like some of the years previous, you go like, okay, there's clearly of the invited teams, there's like who you expect to do really well, and then maybe not so much. You know, again, when we went, it was Moscow 5 just sort of didn't play
right.
gamer.
They gave up. Yeah.
I mean, they gave up. I feel like because the competition is like so close of the invited teams and everything, there isn't really this like huge fall off going down. And yeah, maybe when you're going into the qualifiers, you're saying, okay, well, what's the best in each group? But some of these groups, again, you know, like Roxkiss, they're up there swinging with the big dogs all the time. You know, I feel like they are a high tier team. You know, certainly some of the teams out of the Chinese qualifiers are. So I definitely think that this is the most opportunity you've had so far for a qualifier team to come in and put on a good show.
Well, we just talked a ton about that, and it hasn't even started yet. So that's just a short preview of you guys. When this stuff actually starts, the next few weeks pretty much have already been decided for us, which is so a big relief off at least my shoulders. I don't know about being all over there, but I know I'm loving this. This is our time to shine, man. I love this time of year. It gets us really pumped up for all these games for Dota and to see what everyone's got. So, but let's get a little more focused on the smaller picture here.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten to talk about the patch at all.
No, not even slightly, which really bums me out. I thought you'd want to, but apparently you don't care at all about this patch.
No, I couldn't see talking for 4 hours about it at all. But how about, I mean, let's just give it a spin, Jay. Let's talk about some...
Before we get into like the breakdown of the patch, I have a few things that I wanted to throw it your way that have happened post-patch, and get your take on it.
a little scared.
I like to find these little things and see how you react to them. So, first of all, Dendy's been streaming a lot more, which is interesting. But on one of his streams, he played the old Phantom Assassin mid, and went Mech Vlad's first 2 items after the boots. Mech mid. Now I was trying to process this, and I was speaking with Joe, one of our viewers, and apparently this kind of equates to roughly a 400 effective health with the evasion and armor for that hero. What do you think about Mech Vlad's PA?
Do I have to answer that seriously?
You do? Oh, yeah. Seriously. No, actually, I'm hoping you can help convince me that that's a decent idea, because I am struggling so much with it.
I just can't, Jay. Okay. The thing with those items is that they're just good, but the problem is, if you're PA, then you're not boosting coup de grace. And that's the whole purpose, is to explode with the damage. I mean, honestly, we're looking at this patch a little bit. You see that Wraith King is actually sort of come into the fold a bit more than even he had been previously, already starting to come in a little bit more. And, he is a hero that functions with this high crit value on, the small chance for a high crit.
Right.
So, I guess it's if you can say that you can do a support Wraith King. No, you can't equate those two things
support
at all.
PA you could do, actually, but we're not going to go there. But why would you? That's the thing. But this wasn't support. This was this reminded me of the Alchemist mech mid with like a blink deck, like utility Alchemist, kind of like utility-ish PA. Because obviously not nearly as much as an Alchemist brings, because of the minus armor and stun that he brings. But it just felt strange. And the person was making an argument that, oh, well, she already has enough damage with her crit that you don't really need to build damage, per se. Like, phase boots, and that might be enough with the Vlads. But, when you do get those damage items, then she can two-shot supports. You know what I mean? It can be such a difference. Plus, I think I heard this on one of the streams today, maybe it was Stream League, because they were trolling around about PA getting maybe picked up, and this build actually came up. And they said, oh, well, they have him around on the team. This is just... They're going to get MKB. It's just going to happen. And MKB makes that mech that much worse, because now that effective health that you were trying to calculate is now not so much that useful. I don't know. Yeah,
I guess the trying to stack it on top of Blur and making an argument, I guess. I mean, that's a flimsy hero. And
that is the argument, is that you're going to have Blur, so you're going to have the evasion plus heal plus armor. And be so hard to kill. I guess if you go BKB next, you really are hard to kill, but then what are you doing for your team except slowing someone every few seconds? I'm not sure at that point, but... Alright, well, I just wanted to see what you're saying. So you're in the boat that says, no, thank you. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah.
Or do you just need more science? You need more science on that one.
I don't need more science. I feel like that those items are... You could put those items on almost anybody, and if you say, we really needed to win mid-game, and this is kind of what I got, and I'm the only person that was available to build them, I feel like that is always a reasonable argument to a certain extent, but that is strange.
It's
just, I don't think it'll be new meta.
Better or worse than Refresher or Wraith King?
Oh, it's definitely worse. It's definitely worse. Refresher or Wraith King? Come on.
Because I did see that recently, but not on Dendy's stream, unfortunately. That was just one of my pub games. Anywho, the next thing on the list. Support Kunkka happened in a pro game recently. Have you heard about it?
No, I have not. Please.
Okay. It was DK versus DT that we were just talking about, Dreamtime. DK ran this support Kunkka, who maxed X marks the spot first, and then maxed his torrent, and then finally the Tidebringer. And he was in a tri-lane with Clinks and Vengeful Spirit, against a Darkseer. First of all, just thoughts in general before I go more into it.
That is so much more legitimate than PA with lads and a mech.
Well, this was also in a pro game, not a Dendy stream, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. It's almost like I feel like the Naga Siren, where you go, yeah, you can get damage out of her if you want, but that hero is a lot of utility, and I feel like if you just sort of take some of the, I mean, you want all your spells to hit, but if he's not in this core position where I guess a lot's riding on him, then it's just like, oh, I can drag people back and probably land the torrent. The ship's cool, and then I just sort of do a lot of damage. That's where you go, oh, the hero does enough damage, maybe we don't build items on him that increase the damage because of Tidebringer. I'd buy that more than PA with Mech and Vlad.
All right. Let's leave poor PA alone. We don't need to keep going back to that. I just wanted an opinion. I got it. Trust me, I got your opinion loud and clear. But believe me, I was the same opinion. I do not believe in PA with a Mech and Vlads. But
do you believe in support Kunkka?
Do you believe in magic? All right.
Yes.
I was actually very against it when I first heard it. When I say very against it, I mean you could probably turn almost any hero into a support and be like, oh, they have a slow or something, they're support maybe. But I saw a roaming AM the other day. So that happened. And they won. It was Merlini playing it, though. It was less than interesting. But anyways, he basically just stacked camps. Alright, back on target, though. So the X-Mark spot, I think the reason now this works, I think in 6.8 it would not have been nearly as good. I think that in 6.81 it's actually improved significantly. First of all, the X marks the spot, now double duration on allies, allows for a lot more fountain shenanigans, which is exactly what this guy took advantage of. I think they may have had 3 bottles on their team, and he would just let people TP back to base, X them up, they refill their bottle, pick up their items, and come right back to lane. It was like almost like the Chen, sending them back to base, but even better. And it was really cool. And such a short cooldown, was done really well. The Ghost Ship indicator in general is awesome. You get to see the AoE where it's all going to land with that little watery effect. So that's going to help set up the rest of everything else in general, instead of just this random little X on the map. But honestly, I think what makes him work so well is obviously the ultimate. I think that's the main reason you're going to use him over other people, is you want that rum buff. You want that, get that damage pushed off for now, the move speed, everything going for your team, and it really synergizes well with a lot of different things. If you can keep someone locked down just a bit or enough, you're going to keep them there for a long time. And you can actually do the combo by yourself with enough levels. If you get enough points in the X marks the spot and then go with the Torn into your Ghost Ship, you alone have locked down a hero for a very long time, assuming they'll have a BKB, of course. But I think that is pretty fascinating when you put all that together.
Yeah, and again, I feel like if you were to describe this hero to somebody and you don't include Tidebringer, you just skip it and you say, oh, and he has a third ability. You go, oh wow, that's a lot of lockdown, that's a lot of control, and you can do this cool thing with the allies, and that's really, yeah, totally, support, why not? But then you go, oh, and by the way, you can crit everybody in an area for a bajillion damage if you build damage items. They go, oh, yeah, okay, carry. But yeah. I don't think that's that far of a stretch, and I'm curious to see how that develops.
They just keep buffing his Ghost Ship. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where it's like a minute cooldown, and it's like, if you whiff it, it doesn't really matter, because you'll be able to use it again before you know it. And which is great, because it allows players to be more free with it and really try to make plays with it. And now it's even easier to use. Like I said, you see the visual more clearly. Everything's kind of working for that to work well for him.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with that one. I like it. Do you have any more? Because I have one for you.
I do have one more.
Okay. Go for it.
But I also wanted to say this one last thing, especially if people are going to listen to this and then try it out in their own pubs. I think, especially in a tri-lane situation or something, or just in general, I think it really helps to have someone with a reliable CC. I think this is almost like a Leshrac in a way, or like a Lina, where if you had that reliable, like they had a Vengeful Spirit stun. If you have something that's going to keep him in place to land that torrent early in the game, that's going to help significantly. Because obviously X-March's spot is only 1 second at rank 1, so it's not like that's going to help you land your torrents or anything. So I think that's kind of a big influential factor when you're trying to build a team with it.
Yeah, I think it's totally legit. Yeah, I like it.
All right, final one. This is just a lineup, and I just want to get your take on it. That it was Navi versus Fnatic. Fnatic pulling out this this lineup. I just wanted to know your thoughts on it. They go with the Treant, okay. Dazzle, okay. Axe, Huskar, Medusa.
Everyone's dead and no one dies.
Yeah, what do you think about that one?
Oh, please.
First of all, I thought Huskar wasn't even in captain's mode, so I just got my mind blown. And then I actually researched it to see who wasn't in CM because I just didn't want to be wrong ever again. And it's Brood, Earth Spirit, Terrorblade, Phoenix, and Legion Commander. The only ones not in captain's mode right now. So, yeah, all right. So what do you? I just labeled as Dat Physical Deeps. Now, what do you think about this lineup here?
Okay, give it to me one more time. Dazzle
and Treant for the Ultra Protection, right?
Correct.
Axe, Huskar, and Medusa.
That is hilarious. I love it. God, please tell me they won.
Oh yeah, they did.
Oh, I need to go watch that.
So that's in the Dota. That's in the Dota 2 Champions League. If we can find the link later, maybe we'll try to link it on our Facebook page for everyone to try to watch it. But they were against a Centaur, Mirana, Vengeful, Drow, Lina.
Medusa is so good. I love Medusa.
I know.
And if you're able to protect her,
Why did she go away? She was kind of making her way in after those buffs, and all of a sudden, people were just like, that ulti, is it really worth it?
Is it good? I think so. I think it's awesome. I think it's pretty strong. But I think, too, that this is like the prime time for Medusa because we're still sitting on Tree and Dazzle being really legitimate supports. Mm-hmm. And, unless a Baden comes back super strong, he might be one of the other ones that would really be able to help prop her up when she's weakest. But, that is hilarious, and I love it. And I don't ever want it to go away. I want them to run that lineup every game.
That's Fnatic for you. Those are the troublemakers right there. And I like it too. Honestly, that Medusa, that's like a Russian Medusa. I think she could even win a little more utility. I didn't actually get to watch the game. I just saw the lineups and I saw the outcome. So I want to watch it myself too. But like
we're gonna
utility,
hold hands and watch.
We are. Oh my gosh! Can we skip too? Anyways, I would love like a blink dagger on Medusa that game. That would be amazing because Medusa with that ulti is 95% positioning, 5% damage output. Especially when you already have a Huskar on your team. So I don't know. I think it's exactly. Everyone here needs to watch that game and just
that's nasty.
Everyone hold hands together. It actually just happened today, so the VOD may not even be up yet, but it will be up within the next day, I'm sure.
Okay, is it my turn?
It is your turn. I am finished.
Okay, I think I told you about this one already. I may have made you watch one of the games, but I was watching some Cloud9.
Okay.
Playing somebody, I don't know, and they wound up picking a support Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
So, Zeus is going to be in the stats that we talk about later. But I'm going to blame Cloud9 for some of his statistics, because apparently they had done this in some of their scrim games, and Toby and his co-cast were talking about it a little bit as they were going through draft, like, oh, I wonder if they're going to do it. They would take Zeus and send him into the lane to drop all of his mana, buy things, suicide to the Ancients, and then go back to the lane and do the same thing again, with the point of harassing the other person so bad that they had to burn through all of their regen and would have just a bad time in lane.
What? So level 1 Lightning Bolt is what you're saying?
I can't confirm or deny the
level 1
Lightning
Bolt. No, actually, Arc
Bolt.
Lightning would probably make more sense. Actually, I'd have to compare. What's more DPS with the mana cost? I bet it might be...
Oh, I'm sure it's Lightning Bolt. Well, I guess it depends if you're up against the off-laner. If you're against a tri-lane, you go Dark Lightning.
You don't want to push the lane out, though.
Yeah.
Either way, that's still a crazy ass strategy that I have
I
not heard
don't
of.
don't like. I mean, I sort of, it's like, okay, if you have a lot of crowd control out of everybody else or something, you get a Crystal Maiden or something, so that all you need is damage, and I don't know, you want to see an Invis hero, I'll bite. I'll bite. I'm not gonna love it, but I'll go with it.
I'm
It
all
didn't
for
work.
I'm all for kill lanes, man.
Yeah.
You've heard about my Beastmaster Zeus lane. in the
Oh,
past.
way too much.
Probably way too much at this point.
More
yeah.
than anyone should.
Ever, most likely. Me and Bonk killing it on that duo. That one game, probably like 2 years ago. But regardless, I actually am really intrigued by Support Zeus, and I thought it may be tested out with this patch just because of the fact that he's a really amazing dewarder now. I don't know. I think it could be seen more. But I think he's also, obviously, though, levels are incredibly useful for him. Obviously, get that ultimate, get those higher levels in your lightning bolt and your aura. I don't know. I think, especially in a tri-lane, I think that's just an awful place for Zeus, and I don't think he should be there. But
I feel like he's also like the gold helps him so much too, because you sort of almost need your like Blink Dagger, Arcane Boots, Aghanim Scepter, Refresher sort of things to keep you
if you want to live,
reasonable.
I guess.
So I don't know. I think Zeus is a really, and that's what I didn't even understand the most, is that they're going to suicide Zeus to the Ancients, so he's going to not get any experience for his time. So it had better really pay off for asking this other person out of the lane. I just thought it was crazy. The game I watched, it didn't really work out. They didn't focus the farm very well in the tri-lane, and it was just kind of not a great execution, I feel like, in that case. But, what are you going to do? How about some hard stats? I'm going to go for some facts.
Yeah, let's do that.
Facts. So it's only been a week, and we'll revisit this, of course, as the patch goes, to see what the sort of evolving trends are. But I have to say, I've said this about the last couple patches. I love it because you get to see these teams much more willing to mess with heroes that maybe other teams aren't comfortable messing with. We see things like Support Zeus. People are still trying to figure it out, but I feel like it has not terribly affected what is currently going on, but has just sort of brought more heroes into relevancy. So you look at your top 5 for picks. Mirana at 142. Then you have Centaur, Shadow Demon, Invoker, Sand King. Think of that list. Sand Kings. Sandy Claus. So you pretty much have the same relevant heroes that we've had previously. I mean, What are your thoughts? Do you have any on any of those?
Mirana,
Sandy Claus, perhaps?
I do have a lot of thoughts on Sandy Claus, but my thought on Mirana is that she is the flavor of the week right now. I mean, people are just loving her. They're eating her up. They're trying to run her with the Bane or Shadow Demon if possible, but even without, they still like to pick her up. I mean, she's obviously not the best hard carry in the game by any stretch of the imagination, but just how much of an impact she can put in the game by level 6 and 7 is so much higher than most carries, you could say. In the long run, she can gank out of the lane, she can pop that global invis to set up kills or defensively. She's just a high impact player, and can even still do a decent job carrying late game. So I think she's going to stick around for a while. But Sandy Claus, I think he's going to find some nerfs, and it may be before TI4. What we're kind of referring to, if you guys haven't been watching a lot of pro games recently, or maybe even in your pubs, is the stacking of creeps and then sandstorming them down to get sub 12-minute blink daggers on a 4 Sand King. Pretty absurd. And the other great thing, and why this works even better now than it did in the past, is the fact that blink dagger doesn't cost mana. So he doesn't have to. Usually Sand Kings would have to rush like Arcane Boots to be able to get their combo off or do something effective, but he doesn't have to spend that 75 mana to blink in anymore, so he can just rush a Blink Dagger and still be totally amazing when he gets it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He comes out of this patch untouched, but is now the 5th most picked hero so far. I still don't have a problem with this. I mean, I feel like we've come across heroes in the past that you go like, oh, well, they're able to disappear into the jungle and they come out with the Blink Dagger. All right, but what's happening on the other spots on the map? I mean, Sand King is still a hero that has a really hard time super early unless it's the farming because of the short range on Burrow Strike. So, maybe it's up to the enemy team to put so much pressure on the hard carry with an aggressive tri-lane that they're not able to do that, or have your support Zeus be able to Thunderbolt Sand King while he's in Sandstorm jungling with the other support, Skywrath Mage, of course, for the slow and the silence, and the amplified Zeus damage. I feel like there are ways to punish it, so I don't know if I have seen enough of him to the point that I want to say nerf him, but because I don't know. I feel like it's the same thing with Batrider. You disappear into the jungle, yeah, he's an offlaner, not a support, but you're leaving that lane completely open. So there's sort of a trade, and I think teams have to be able to take advantage of it.
I suppose so. I don't know. I just feel like he's now one of the only, because they changed how the smoke plus like Pudge and different people worked, so they didn't have to worry about taking damage. He's like pretty much one of the only ones that has to worry about not. He doesn't take any damage when he does this. He's completely safe, assuming, like you said, the other team doesn't try to stop him. And usually, other teams have a lot more to deal with in the lanes than to worry about jungling Sand King. So a lot of times he will be just left alone and get his farm on. But I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's a bit too strong right now, and they may adapt to it and make some changes. But like I said, seeing all these Sand Kings getting these 15-minute or under blink daggers is so crazy to think when he hits level 6 or 7. Because he's also getting a lot of levels. It's not just the gold. He's getting Epicenter real fast. And, he can change a team fight. When you hit 6 before like everyone else, you are going to stomp them in a team fight. So they can just push a base with that blink dagger and have nothing to worry about generally. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But the other little thing that kind of add on that, Aghanim's Enigma has been getting picked up recently.
Yeah.
Do you like it yet? Because apparently other people do.
I like it, I think, for the same reason that I liked it originally, in that it's like durability, and if you go like BKB, then you're like, alright, well, I still need something to keep me alive. I'll go Aghanim Scepter. I like the stats that you get out of it. I feel like they make sense on that hero, and it's sure. If you need the damage, go for it. It's fine. I haven't seen enough of it firsthand to, sort of have a case by case to see how I feel like it compares to what other item choices the Enigma could have gotten. But I've kind of always liked it in theory for that reason,
obviously Blink and BKB should always be a priority, and then you'll probably have a Soul Ring. Mech is the only thing that you could argue maybe you don't get instead of, and maybe go Ogs depending on what your team needs. But yeah, It does a lot of work, and now that they buffed the radius significantly on the Midnight Pulse, it's that much more dramatic when you use it, because it's like, bam, here's this huge AoE that you get to drop with it. So it's obviously good, but yeah, the question is it good enough to warrant a purchase on it? So
I feel like that is Enigma is going to be relevant at all points in the game because of Black Hole. So I feel like if you get your mech, you get your Blink, your BKB to ensure it gets off. What do you go after that? You could go Refresher. If you want to make that one Black Hole count for more, go the Aghanims. I'm totally cool with that. And I think that because you don't really have... You could go, a Sheep Stick if you wanted to, but if you're looking for the damage, I feel like that's a totally legit way to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry. You can continue on your journey here.
Thanks for interrupting me.
You're welcome.
The next section, entitled Dem Win Rates. Highest win rates for heroes over 10 games played. Which Doctor would you like to guess?
Boy, I'm actually pretty sure you already told me it, and I just can't remember it. That's the sad part. 86.
Yeah. 80. Crystal Maiden, also untouched, 69%. Leshrac, which I love. Oh my god, I love. 65%. 63% on this Mirana. Nerf more, please. Disruptor, 63%. And the thing that I love even more about the Disruptor is it's not that, CM, Witch Doctor, 16 and 15 games respectively. Disruptor, 43 games. What's up? This guy,
that's a lot. That
buffed the kinetic field apparently enough for people to go like, yep, let's do it. And I am so happy to see him.
And I bet you in over 90% of the games, he does not get Aghanims, and he's still that good. Like, that's the thing. It's like AA, you expect him to pretty much get Nogginims in most games, but Disruptor, even without, is so freaking powerful with that ultimate. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's just like you said. It's about time this guy's getting used, and his win rate is showing how strong he is.
Yeah, I feel like this is sort of on the back of just the things that we already knew about Disruptor. He like needs levels, and then some of his ability, like it's a good ability, but it's on a long cooldown, so you can use it like once, and you sort of have this one glorious moment, and if you screw it up, then you're kind of SOL. But I really like the hero, and I've liked seeing him in the past. I can him buff is good.
Oh, yeah,
it's actually games bought. It looks like for 6 point. Oh, hold on. Let's double check that before I go and commit to it. I want to say 12. No, it's just gonna. Anyway, between him and Leshrac again, I feel like that's. I messed around with the Leshrac lightning buff just a little bit, and I love it. I think it's amazing. So nice, even though it's for a short duration. It's helpful, and I feel like it just gives you so much more confidence when you're trying to land your split earths.
Yeah. No, it's good in general too, and like I said, puffing that mid Leshrac build, although I'm sure none of these games incorporated that at all. But even still, obviously, it's just more utility for the guy, and giving him more than just an edict / ultimate bot throughout the fight. So yeah, I really like it. It's a powerful slow on a short cooldown later on. So yeah, more power to it, and I'm not surprised.
The next section. This is unfortunate. Entitled "What Happened." Heroes over 10 games that have seemed to not put it together, and this is really just the dagger through my heart, Jay. Earthshaker. Let's say 23% win rate for 13 games played. I'm gonna skip the second one, pretend like it never happened. Alchemist at number 3, 30% win rate. Lone Druid has 29.
Oh.
And, you figure the bear, he's stronger, except against Meepo and Tiny and maybe a couple
All
others.
these Tinies getting picked, man. I tell you.
Yes.
God, there's a lot of Tinies getting picked.
Yeah, there are. I just, that makes me sad. That is honestly so completely unexpected for me. I really expected him to have a little bit better of a laning phase, to have that bear be a little bit more survivable even later and just come into fights standing better, but apparently not so far. I mean, I feel like this is a number that's not going to stay consistent,
No.
So I guess there's hope in that, but just sad times.
Earthshaker got nerfed too hard, man. Got nerfed
Apparently,
too
just stopping
hard.
the creeps is apparently
That's enough to break him, I guess. He's also not against any more Nagas these days, or PAs, or PLs, I should say, or PAs, but especially illusion bots in general. So, that was obviously more of his strength. I don't know. I also feel like, let's be honest, why would you pick Earthshaker now that Sand King is so damn good? Like, I feel like Sand King does a better job of initiating nowadays, and then he is obviously way better at getting gold than Earthshaker. So yeah, Fissure and Burstrike are very different mechanics, but I feel like that Epicenter does plenty of work, and I don't know. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I mean, I think that's sort of the sad thing is it's not even like these are pick rates. This is just win rates, So, previous patches, his win rate has obviously been a little bit higher than 20%, 23%.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing to point out of, like, why you might not even see this hero that much. He's not blocking the creeps for you like he was before, and, because you can slip away, Earthshaker's only going to be stronger than Sand King for the first couple minutes of a game, and are you really able to make that huge of an impact with the Fissure that you can justify, not having Sand King?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably
I don't know.
not.
That's a tough question, and yeah, that's what it seems to be. Alchemist, what happened? What is happening with you? I don't.
He's been getting too many nerfs, anyways. He's been riding that train, or the roller coaster, I should say, just up and down.
No touches this with this patch, but
well, is there any way we can see what role he's been mostly getting played as?
Wow, wouldn't it be great if we could?
Yeah, because honestly, I feel like he's getting used a lot as support again. At least the couple games I've seen him picked were support, so I basing it purely on a couple games, which is probably not the best way to do it. But I don't think he's getting used as one. So I think it's either the mid or support. Not like the carry alchemist of days in the past. And after all those nerfs to the vision and the duration and all those things that happened, it doesn't surprise me. I don't really know why he's getting picked, to be honest. I think other supports are seeming to be more effective these days than him. So. Dang,
shots fired.
Yep, that's right.
Next section, things that I'm sad about. These are just 3 heroes that I was really hoping. I just wanted them to do better because I love them dearly, and it's not enough. So, Zeus, as we mentioned before, he's only been in 8 games thus far, or up to the point where I did my research here. 25% win rate in pro games. Tide Hunter, 24 games, 38% win rate. Abaddon, 12 games, 33% win rate. I mean, what do you think about these heroes? What are your thoughts on these?
I was going to say Tidehunter. At first, it surprised me because obviously we talked about Tidehunter getting his buffs this patch, and now you're seeing a good amount of him in that off lane, doing what he used to do back in the day. But it's not too shocking to me, and the reason why is the heroes that are getting picked up in this meta are really or favor getting BKBs. Like if the situation calls for it, they have no issue. It's not like a Phantom Lancer, it's not like a Naga, it's not like a hero who you normally would not get one on. So Dragon Knight, Mirana, heroes like this, BKB, no problem. And when you get 9 like that, that makes some of these heroes way weaker. Obviously, like the Tidehunter with the Ravage, I think maybe that has something to do with the kind of carries or kind of other kind of heroes that are just getting picked up all over the place. OD, things like that, where if a BKB is kind of commonplace for them, then it's going to make those kind of wombo combo teamfight heroes not nearly as effective.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about just what he's able to do in the offlane when you have a hero like Centaur who's able to do it so well. I guess when you're looking at Tide, you go, okay, he can sort of do the same thing that Batrider does and abandon and try to farm up a Blink Dagger, but, like you said, he can still be blocked by Magic Community. And I think just when you compare, there's certainly potential for impact out of the Tidehunter in team fights, but what Batrider's able to do, I feel like even when you look between those 2 heroes, you go, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just go with Bat. Or go with Centaur, unless they're banned. But
speaking of offlane Centaurs, we had a viewer question this week.
We did.
From Scott Balfour. Great to have you back here. And he was wondering what we thought about... we kind of discussed this previously a little bit, but what our thoughts of building an offlane mech on Axe or Centaur after Blink and with supports that are not mech inclined. He says he also does it on his offlane Bristlebacks and Elder Titans, but his friends do not. So what do you think about that?
I think we talked about this specifically to Bristleback.
We did, yes.
And I actually was going to mention this with another stat that I thought was interesting, because now that I've had some time to cool down, collect my thoughts, think it over seriously with the Codal Aghanim Scepter thing, I feel like even for Codal, what it's able to give you compared to mech, I think you can still make the argument that mech is just better than whatever you'd be able to get out of the Aghanims, but if you have an offlaner that's able to get it, I feel like it's a little bit more legit to be able to get an item like that, more of a luxury item on a hero like Codal. So, I'm curious to see how it goes. I mean, clearly, Scott, if you're doing it with the nerf to the hoof stomp, then it's working out. But I'm wondering how the mana cost goes in there with trying to use that ability, and if you're able to be as mobile as you would be otherwise. But of course, if you're doing that and you're just up in people's faces and you're able to double edge and then mech yourself back up, that's pretty strong, and I can dig that.
I gotta say, especially on the topics of Axe and Centaur, I wonder what the favors are, what they're favoring. You know, if they don't go mech, what do they like? I have to assume the typical thing is blade mail on those two heroes, but you know, I guess it does depend on what your team needs necessarily, or what is that luxury item per se. You know, is it Heaven's Halberd in some cases? We've seen axes with Mjolnir for God knows why. They love to attack fast and shock people to death. But do you think that a mech pays off better than a blade mail in most cases?
I don't know. I get the blade mail. I like the blade mail. But if you look at the sort of second most popular luxury item on Centaur, it's Heart of Tarask, and there you go. Okay, I can kind of see that.
Well,
BKB, a popular item on them, and you know, as you go down the list, you can see things like, you know, your pipe, which I think is another great one. Mech, you know, bought for Centaur's life spent in for professional games, 3% of the time on him. But like I said, I think that not only do you have to look at, do you think that this one item makes sense on this hero? It's, if you do that, then you are freeing up money on your supports. And so if you have, you know, one of these other support heroes that can farm effectively and they're able to get up different items, you know, what room are you freeing up elsewhere? So
yeah,
I haven't played the heroes enough to be able to speak to like what the mana restriction is, but like I said earlier when we started this thing off, mech is like one of those items where I feel like on just about every hero you could say, you know, you could sort of make an argument for it because it's just good in general. So I'll bite.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry for dying. So what sort of heroes have you, that we talked about last week, maybe that you wanted to talk a little bit more about briefly, or that you thought have been interesting, maybe you've been seeing more that, I don't know, that just tickle your fancy?
I've seen some support Tusk rolling into action, you might say. He's no, it's kind of lame, but yeah, he's getting picked up. Not a lot, but he is getting used, and you know, I kind of expected him to get a little more action too. I think Na'Vi was one of the teams that used him recently, but the fact that the snowball is just now it's got more utility to it. It's not just a very simple point and click, try to stun the enemy. It also, you know, you can channel it, pull people in to dodge certain effects or spells or do different things with it, and then release it with more speed than it ever had before. I mean, it's just a much improved spell from before. The rest of his kit obviously staying relatively the same, but I think he's a lot more useful now, and I think support may be the most ideal way to run him. He doesn't necessarily need items to perform well. You know, he can benefit. We've seen some one tusks. I think Loda might have been one of them that ran it, but and they've done pretty well. But you know, it's not like a necessity. It's more luxurious at that point, getting the drums and maybe a Shadow Blade or something crazy. But you know, when I was playing in my 25 games of Tusk, I was learning all about the one Tusk because I was doing it very often. But I think he's going to continue to be that kind of niche pick that kind of throws people off and not a very common support hero. But I do think he is vastly better now. Yeah,
I think, you know, like you're describing the snowball, I think it's just a more intelligent spell.
Yeah,
and that's of course going to make the hero more attractive. And you know, he's 6-3 right now.
That's pretty good.
So he's doing better than Lone Druid. So
a lot of heroes are.
Yeah. But you know, the Keeper of the Light, that Aghanim Scepter, here's the thing. It's great that your Illuminate will heal people half the time. That's fine. I still think when you're comparing it to like mech, there are going to be those opportunities where the armor, the passive health regeneration, are going to be, important things. If you like super need the blind as well, that's cool, or the ability to recall. I certainly get why the Theogonyms is a strong item on him, especially too because then all you have to do is pick up a gem and then you own the map. But I was definitely very scared of it to begin with, and now I'm fine with it. What are your thoughts?
To reference Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
Dayman, fighter of the Nightman,
Yes.
champion of the sun.
I think he technically gets countered by the Nightman, though.
That's actually true. He's the fighter of the Nightman, but he does lose dramatically to the Nightman. Pretty hard, as it turns out. He doesn't have a spell that makes the sun go up, because how crazy would that mechanic be? But, yeah, he does get that awesome vision, too, during the day. But, I think he's not as scary as when we were first reading over the analysis. I was like, oh my god, insta-pick, insta-ban, he's going to be so good. And that was just simply not true. And these pro players at least haven't hopped on the Codal train yet. And sometimes it does just take a while. And like I've said before, it'll take like one team doing something good with it, and then the rest of the teams want to do it too. So you never know what'll happen from it. But it really hasn't been that dramatically awesome thing. I think the most interesting thing we've seen so far, and I've already linked this on our Facebook page, you can find it there, but Team DK ran Tiny, Codal, IO, and then two others that I'm just not as interested about. They don't really matter. Yeah, right. Because essentially what would happen is the IO and Tiny would go in and either backdoor, or they would go kill a hero or do something crazy and be in the line of fire of enemy lines, and the recall would bring them out, or not recall, relocate. Excuse me. I don't play IO, and
That's pretty good.
thank you. The respell. He would get out of there with Tiny, leave Tiny in the fountain, and then the Codal would then begin channeling, or not channeling, but he would essentially teleport IO back the second, like the millisecond he got back from his ultimate, so that they couldn't damage him in time to prevent that from happening. So essentially, they got out scot-free after accomplishing whatever they wanted to do. And it was incredible. They did it multiple times throughout the game. And it just frustrated the team. It would allow them to rat Dota because they'd leave 3 or 4 heroes where this IO was, hoping to get a kill. And then he would just vanish right away. And it was pretty disgusting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, they aren't the first team to do it, but with the, buffs to Codal getting the CM come back again, it's nice to see DK be able to sort of just make this work again, because it obviously is a timing thing, and maybe a bit of a setup. But what do you think? Because just sort of reading some of the general public's opinion on this, people are like, oh man, is it like Chen Pudge Hook? Like, is this something that needs to get nerfed? I mean, do you think it's abuse, or do you think it's just well executed?
I don't. That's a really good question, because with the Pudge Hook, you essentially, we saw it in the international, where it literally changed the entire game from that one hook, and it. I think the reason that was so toxic is because it brought the enemy to your base and killed them in your fountain. This one is purely defensive. You cannot use it offensively. At least we don't think so right now. I have not seen some kind of crazy offensive, like a eventual swap or something insane that I can't even fathom right now. But
Here you go. Bots Codal. You recall somebody. Wait, does it recall to where you're standing right then?
It's whenever it ends. Whenever it ends is where you end up.
Recall somebody, you bot to a creep wave, and someone's like, oh, Codal's coming in. And then you pull a carry there to annihilate somebody instantly.
It's like a relocate with IO, but better.
And then IO brings somebody else in, and
you bring the whole team like Pit Lord, but without Pit Lord. Yeah. I don't think it's like that. I think it's not nearly the level of the Pudge Chen combo. I think it's it may still get tweaked. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it might not, because they're obviously going to see how it plays out. But I think since it's just a purely defensive thing, and that it's not like destroying the game, we're so we don't think. I think it's honestly it's fine how it is.
Yeah, I agree.
It takes a lot of coordination, may I add, to pull that off, because you have to time that so perfectly that those three heroes can't even attack you or do any kind of spell. Like, that's how well timed they had that down.
Yeah, and if if this is killing you on the inside, having to put up with this, get an ability that you can lay on the ground. So you just throw down a Midnight Pulse.
Midnight Pulse.
Io's coming back.
Yeah.
Problem solved. All of a sudden, doesn't matter. And on top of that, I think when you're comparing it to the Chen Pudge hook, you're making Pudge's hook work further than it is intended to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is just sort of all of the abilities working as intended in coordination. That'd be like saying, I don't know, some of the Wombo combos set up by Darkseer Naga +1 are broken. And I guess you did see some.
Bloodseeker plus Nature Prophet ult, so we could get that bounce to hit him magically. I don't know. Some Wombo combo.
Yes.
That was not as common, ever.
No, probably not.
Probably not. But yeah, I agree. I think the hook length is another great point to it. So yeah, I don't foresee that getting adjusted. And also, let's be honest, Kotal right now is not a front runner in games, whereas Chen back then was like very popular. So I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, is there anybody else that maybe you wanted to honorably mention, or that you...
Well, let's just say, I mean, we kind of mentioned it, but Io Tiny, like, almost every game, especially in Southeast Asia, is there a reason this is just like, oh yeah, this is really freaking strong? Or, like, obviously it wasn't like a lot of buffs that came in, so why do you think this is suddenly becoming popular again?
It's clearly to crush a Lone Druid. And my heart and soul.
Oh,
31 tiny picks so far. I mean, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's on par with some other of the sort of, I guess, flavor heroes. I want to say, like, pretty similar to, like, Templar Assassin numbers. Your Storm Spirit, even though he is having a terrible time this patch. And even your Slark. So, I think it's interesting. I don't know. Clearly, Fnatic have been making it work for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's not like there have been changes from the patch other than to kill my buddy Lone Druid that really have affected it much. But I feel like it's just pretty solid, and if it ain't broke, might as well use it. Apparently, that's my phrase.
And to branch off that, I feel like not all the time, but it seems like duo mid lanes are starting to make a comeback. Tiny IO mid, I've seen Spectre AA mid. I've seen a couple different carry, kind of bringing back to that one period where there was just a lot of carry support middle lanes. Do you think this is a trend that could continue, or is this still kind of just a rarity?
I think it's fine. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things that's like many of the other heroes and hero combinations that are, sort of slowly being introduced with the new patch, is just going to be this thing that some teams like to do. And, I feel like I like this a lot better with the IO and stuff too, just because, you're not first banning them like you were, a while ago. This really is just, it's something you're going to have to learn how to play against certain teams, and it's fine with me.
Okay. Finally, there was a Brewmaster. Well, there's been a few Brewmaster picks. But I haven't seen them be rushing Aghanims like I was kind of expecting them to. It seems like they're going that blink into something like a BKB or AC or other items. Do you think that now that the cooldown's reduced passively, that the Aghanims is just not as effective, or what do you think on that?
I feel like the Aghanims is all about like control and damage, and just sort of getting that little extra bit out of the primals, and I don't know that that's ever really going to be so important. I feel like the times that that's going to be so important are so few and far between that it's just better off to wind up getting something like you're saying, the AC or what have you, that are going to just provide more utility to your entire team. Because compared to the old Ultimate, you would get the Aghanims so that you had that utility to provide with the reduced cooldown, but
right.
if it's just damage and everything, then yeah, I don't know that you really need to go the Aghanims. And I don't want to say I like it better because I think there's so much potential in the Aghanims remaster. But I think it's nice that the hero is more flexible and doesn't have to go for the Aghanim Scepter right off the bat.
That's a good point. That's pretty much all I had.
Riki?
The old Rickster. Oh yeah, you're in love with this guy now.
His potential to just deny creeps now that he can apply backstab to friendly creeps, I think is really interesting. He has ran it a couple times, a handful since the patch, but I think it's interesting that he's managed to get into these games, have a decent win rate coming out of it. I want to say it's 500, even though I was just looking at it not a second ago. But I think it's nice too that there's just more utility to the hero, or there's sort of another aspect to it that he's gotten. Previously the health regeneration increase. Now he has another buff to his laning presence, with the ability to blast hit even easier, or to deny even easier. So I'm really curious to see if this is a change that's able to make the hero work really well for some teams. I mean, you compare him with the IO for that combination, but of course, again, the problem that we have with the Riki is, how does I4 staff? You can just push people out of Cloud or push him away.
And that's where you get Disruptor, so they can't force staff out of the kinetic field. See? You've just solved the problem. Kinetic field plus smokescreen sounds real freaking good. I'm just saying.
That does sound
plus
good.
Plus Disruptor ult. I think they're double silence. Does double silence, does that counter it out? They can cast spells now?
Then they're even louder. The spells do more damage.
It's so silent in there that it's incredibly loud. Okay. Well, now that we know we're goofy as hell, do you want to wrap this thing up? Oh, I do have a quick thing to say, though. I am using a new headset and kind of some new equipment-ish stuff. So if you guys want to just leave either a YouTube comment or Facebook post and just let us know how it sounds compared to previous episodes, or if there's any tweaks or anything you'd like us to do, I'm all about improving the quality of the show, so just like to hear that feedback.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I wanted to add is, with all these changes, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't mind having some suggestions for heroes to go on, let's say 10 or so game streak.
Oh boy.
Or, maybe a new Wombo combo lane for us to go in there and kill it with. So if you guys out there have any suggestions, I don't know about you, J4Y, but I'm certainly open to it. Maybe you revisit the Tusk and you tell us how great new Snowball is.
Forever Tusk. Okay.
Forever Tusk. But, hey, go out there, watch these qualifiers when they start up, because it's going to be awesome. Go out there, play in some games, get yourself ready for the Join Dota League, and, go out there and play some sprees with these heroes and tell us what you think of the changes, guys. We'll see you next week.